Good morning or good afternoon. Can we start?
Good morning. Hi.
Yeah. So we are starting
good morning.
our event. My name is Andrius Kubilius. I am a member of European Parliament from Lithuania, former Prime Minister, and we are starting our event devoted to Ukrainian local municipalities and regions. We are doing this event together with think tank ANTS, which is led by Hanna Hubko, our friend, our colleague from Ukraine. And also event is done by East Neighborhood Forum, which we established as an informal forum in European Parliament. Dear colleagues, I am really happy to congratulate all of you. I know that quite many participants from different regions of Ukraine are joining us, and we shall talk about how important is not only for Ukraine itself as a state, as a nation, integration towards EU, but how important is also for all the regions. And we all know that recently Ukraine had local elections, very important elections. A lot of new people were elected into different municipalities or regions. Also, we see the tendencies how those municipalities are developing. In some cases, we see what we have seen in our countries back in 10 or 15 years ago, when some local power groups, political power groups are keeping their power. But that is quite a normal development in such a country like Ukraine, which is striving for democracy, for integration, for rule of law. And we are happy to have this conversation with people represented from different regions, different municipalities, about ambitious future. And that is why I'm happy that we have also our members from European Parliament participating in this event. We have people from EU Commission, very important people, and we shall talk very practical things. You know, really, next decade, from my point of view, is crucial for Ukrainian aspirations towards EU. I hope that we shall manage on EU side also to be more ambitious, to try to to find new ways how to assist integration of three associated members like Ukraine, Moldova, and Georgia. But of course, it will depend very much on how things will develop in Ukraine itself, and not only on national level but also on regional level, because integration towards EU is really the way to build the success of the country, and that success should be built not only in Kyiv, but also in all the different regions. And that will depend on how much you will be able to have what I would call national integration strategy, where all the parts of Ukrainian political community, both on a national level and on a regional level, will try to find the best ways how to build, friends inside of European Union, how to build coalitions, which will, I hope, during the next decade, will open the doors for Ukrainian membership. Will give candidate status. That is our view, our vision. There will be very important presidencies of Poland in 2025 and Lithuania in 2027, and also, it will not be only political issue how integration will go on. Here will be, of course, a lot of new instruments which EU, I hope, will be able to provide for the development of Ukraine on a different levels, again, on regions, on oblast level, on municipalities level. And the question will be how all those institutions on a different level will be ready to absorb this assistance, to absorb financial assistance, to have proper projects and so on. Because some years ago, when we, together with my good friend Hanna Hubko, were developing an idea of so-called Marshall Plan for Ukraine, we at the end we came to conclusions that the biggest problem is, of course, what we call absorption capacity. How to make those available money really to use in the best way for development of Ukraine. And that is my pleasure to introduce to all of you, Hanna Hubko, who will moderate our meeting. And we have quite a tight schedule. We have a lot of, speakers, a lot of presentations, possibilities to meet new people from the regions. And sorry that I forgot at the very beginning to explain some technologies but I hope that during that pandemic, at least we learned how to use Zoom possibilities. So here is a translation. You can switch to the language which you want to listen. But now I would like Hanna to step in and then to chair our meeting.
Thank you, Andrius, and good afternoon to everybody. So we started our new local self-government and ambition agenda for cooperation with the EU forum. And our first panel, how to make decentralization reform successful. So I would like to give the floor to our Vice Prime Minister, Deputy Minister for European and Euro-Atlantic integration, Olga Stefanishina, asking for her to keep focusing on key priorities for Ukrainian government, and also how to improve cooperation between local self-government and the European institutions. Що ж, шановні учасники, насправді ми дуже раді бачити сьогодні представників Європейського парламенту і дякуємо Андрію Кучбілюсу за його проактивну позицію, представників Європейської комісії, друга України Катерину Матернову, ну і також новообраних депутатів місцевих рад. Хтось обрався вперше як мер міста Рівного Третя, когось переобрано як мер Миколаєва Олександр Сенкевич, який також сьогодні матиме виступ. Також у нас будуть депутати якраз і міських голів Старобільська, Луганська область, де вже 7-й рік триває російська збройна агресія, і дуже важливо зрозуміти, яка допомога є, ще потрібна, і щоб вона, ця допомога, була ефективною. Тому з метою економії часу я зараз передаю слово пані Ользі Стефанишиній і дуже прошу пані Олю фокусуватися, які пріоритети зараз уряду в співпраці з ЄС для українських громад на місцевого самоврядування, як налагоджувати торгівлю, зокрема з країнами Європейського Союзу, місцевому бізнесу, який є в різних громадах Європейського Союзу, і які ви бачите такі вже системні пропозиції на 21-й рік, а можливо на 3 роки вперед з Європейським Союзом. Прошу, пані Оля, вас до слова.
Thank you, Anna. Thank Andres, Petras, Katerina. I'm happy to participate in this event today together with the local self-government representatives. Our discussion reflects our willingness to intensify the European cooperation at regional level, and today we're witnessing how the regions are becoming full-fledged partners. Today we are reviving our trade with the EU, understanding that Euro-integrational efforts should not be focused just in one office of Prime Minister. The legislation and many decisions approved by Ukrainian parliament and Ukrainian government have to be rooted and supported by the regions. One of the objectives of our decentralization process is to decentralize the reforming resources too. And we try to encourage regions to create and implement joint projects with the neighboring countries, neighboring regions of other countries for this well-being of their people. Quite recently, we initiated establishment of those of the regions, establishment of the regional Euro integration centers was offices. Quite recently, such office was created in Kherson. The next will be opened very soon in Dnipro. Luhansk region also expressed their willingness to have such an office. All those are the regions rather removed from the border of Ukraine, from western border of Ukraine, but nevertheless we are pursuing raising capacity of those regions, and we will try to deliver funding and strengthen cooperation at the inter-regional level. Our objective is to increase access to information, to allow the regions to promote themselves in a bigger space, and we are keen to support this initiative. So those regions who expressed willingness and readiness to join the the local Euro-Atlantic initiative, they are welcome to join and show good example to other regions. And today we would like to demonstrate that Euro-Atlantic integration stops to be just a dream or an abstract fantasy, and is now these days turning into more practical aspects. We are eager to translate the decisions that are made at this central level, to translate the implementation of those approach and decision making to the local level. Thank you, Anna, for initiating this event together with your colleagues from the European Parliament. And I hope that after today's discussion, we will get a lot of requests from the regional self-governments willing to promote their regions at the European level. And I hope that we will get useful KPIs for assessment of the internal work inside the country. Thank you, Olga. Preparing the event, we found a lot of interest. People kept asking, we are ready to invite European MPs to our regions. We would like to demonstrate what we can do, how, and ask how we can cooperate. So this reflects that the interest is huge. Quite often the question is for local self-government. The major question is how to bring European integration closer to everyday life of people, how to make it understandable, at least in terms of the foodstuff quality, for example.
яка дуже довго вже знає український файл і допомагає Україні здійснювати загалом реформи. І тому якраз, якщо можна, пані Катерино, як Deputy Director General for Neighborhood Policy and Enlargement Negotiations, яка представляє також Ukraine Support Group, пані Катерино,
she is also representing Ukrainian support group. Could you please describe the top priorities of the European Union in cooperation of local self-government bodies in Ukraine? What do you expect for the nearest future? What opportunities are opened for the mayors of municipalities? Would you please comment on that?
Thank you very much, Hanushka. It's great, if I may. It's great to see you. It's great to see Olga and Andris and all of other colleagues. And it's thank you very much for inviting me, and also congratulations on holding this event, because I think that following the local elections in Ukraine, it's really important to also reflect on the decentralization, to step a little bit back and look at what has been achieved and what are the challenges and opportunities going forward. I would like to start by saying that decentralization is a little bit of an acquired taste in terms of European Commission support, because this is not an area where we have, our famous acquis communautaire. This is not an area where we legislate. In fact, the closest that there is a regulatory framework for this reform is the European Charter on Local Self-Government that is part of the Council of Europe norms that Ukraine is a member of. Let me just stop right here and ask whether you can hear me and see me, because something funny happened on Zoom.
No, it's okay.
Okay, good. Okay, thanks, Andris. Okay, good. Because it changed the picture, so I wasn't sure whether you can see me. Good. So if anything, the principles of decentralization are enshrined in this European Charter, and therefore the question is, why is the European Commission getting involved with decentralization, and not only getting involved, but in fact our EU-LEAD program that we've been supporting decentralization with since 2016 is the largest of its kind anywhere in the world in terms of supporting decentralization. And the reason is very simple. It's, democracy starts at the local level. Even in the European treaties, we have something called principles of subsidiarity, which simply means that decisions should be made as close to citizens as possible. So the governance at multiple levels should be endowed with the decisions as close to citizens. So something can be done at European level, something at national level, at regional, or at the local level. So I think this has been sort of the main reason why we thought that helping Ukraine overcome the past, and I come from a very centralized system myself. I also grew up during the communist regime. It was a very top-down approach and system that we and my colleagues who worked on it before had the feeling, and there was demand on the Ukrainian side, that this could be one of the most transformative reforms the country undertook. And I'm very happy to say, now we are in 2020, that it has been one of the most transformative reforms. I think that anyone who traveled outside of Kyiv sees the dynamism and the civic life across the country. I remember a few years ago when I was in Popasna in the Luhansk region, 5 kilometers away from the line of contact, and I was really charmed by what I saw. We visited not only the local administration but various little activities and civic activities and businesses, and I must say that it's heartwarming to see what has been achieved in terms of transforming the face of the country. EU lead supported the amalgamation of the Hromadas, and it's great to see that 2/3 of them did so voluntarily. It's great to see that the local elections already took place in the new structure. We are very happy to see also the reconfirmation this fall to the decentralization, which was the budget code amendment of transferring 60% of the personal income tax to the local level, and we very much look forward to also see how it gets embedded in the state structures and eventually will find its way also into the constitution. So those are sort of legal or technical ways of looking at it. But what I want to say, closer to closing, is that we are very much continuing to work with the Hromadas. We want to continue working on institutionally supporting it. We very much look at the program as a flexible instrument that responds to the needs of the local communities. And we were able to rely on the project also to help channel our quite considerable COVID support or COVID pandemic support that we rolled out in the spring. For example, by supporting local entrepreneurs to produce somewhere around 300,000 of protective face masks and other equipment that were distributed by the amalgamated Hromadas to citizens. But we are not stopping there. We are not only stopping in working with the newly created Hromadas. We have now put together a project that will help. I think the name of it is even talking about resilience, to support the less, to support the more vulnerable communities. So under EU for Resilient Regions, we are actually looking to work with the east of the country and help the communities and Hromadas there in the socioeconomic development. So in closing, just want to say we really admire what has happened in this area in Ukraine, and we very much see that as something that's still in process. I mean, and the decentralization is indeed something that one needs to work on all the time, and I'm very glad that Ukraine has taken this path and that he's reached this level. And I want to say in closing that we stand behind you, and we will continue with our both expertise and financial support. Thank you.
Дуже дякую, пані Катерино, за такий хороший аналіз і згадані пропозиції. Я думаю, що зараз, зважаючи на те, що в Україні йде обговорення бюджету 2021, і для представників місцевого самоврядування є найважливішим, чи будуть гроші, зокрема ті, які стосуються місцевого самоврядування. Завжди йде боротьба
secure that money
фонд
which
регіонального
will
розвитку. Ми
remain at the local level and which will come to the local level.
Після перемовин із урядом, уряд погодив бюджет до другого читання в парламенті, і ми сподіваємося, що до кінця року ми дійдемо в бюджет, бюджетом, де органи місцевого самоврядування матимуть впевненість, що і по субвенціям, особливо зважаючи на пандемію, на ситуацію в медичній сфері, освітню галузь, в них це буде пріоритетом, саме видатки на ці сфери. І от ми також запрошуємо учасників ставити питання, і одне в нас є онлайн-трансляція, є одне з запитань вже до міністра. Ми дуже дякуємо сьогодні, що Олексій Чернишов, міністр розвитку громад та територій, з нами. Дякуємо. Також у нас буде потім Іван Букеря, ваш заступник, щоб продовжити цю дискусію. Пане Олексію, до вас питання, зокрема, оскільки часу небагато, я хотіла, щоб кожен учасник був озвучений. Олександр Корінний із асоціації ОТГ пише, наша асоціація наполегливо лобіювала збільшення ДФРР, а ситуація зменшення на 4,5 мільярди є неприпустимою. Чи дослухаються народні депутати до пропозиції громад повернути в держбюджет інфраструктурну субвенцію, яка найбільш справедливо надходила до громад і сприяла їх розвитку? Тому я хотіла, щоб ви, крім свого вітального слова, ключових сигналів, дали відповідь на це найбільш наболіле питання, що чекати новообраним мерам від бюджету 2021. Ну і до вас є ще одне питання. Коли очікувати змін до законодавства в частині повноважень органів місцевого самоврядування і держадміністрації? Отож, пане Олексію, дякуємо, і, будь ласка, чекаємо на ваші
second question about the split of responsibilities and mandate between the state administrations and the local self-governments. Good afternoon, dear friends. I would like to welcome all of you with new elections, which for the first time happened based on new election legislation. I also would like to thank to Andres and Katerina for their high evaluation of the role of Ukrainian government in promotion of decentralization. I believe that decentralization remains one of the most successful Ukrainian reforms. Now, after elections, we may restart and resume very proactively development of local self-government based on the European Charter. A Ministry of the Regions tries to create additional favorable conditions and opportunities for cooperation of the amalgamated communities with the European Union. We believe that local communities is a basic level for human development, humanitarian development. For example, we have a successful case of the EU Danube strategy, a project, a neighborhood project in which Ukraine has been participating since 2012. For Ukraine, this participation is quite important, which allows to improve the situation in the Danube region and develop our neighborhood relations with the neighboring countries. Ukrainian chairmanship in this strategy may open space for the further strengthening of cooperative ties improvement of the international image of Ukraine, the recent meeting of the national coordinate at that meeting of national coordinators, Ukraine expressed its willingness to become the chairman in the Danube strategy in the future. On the framework of that. Also, the next is Carpathian initiative, and now we are waiting for the approval of the EU to this Carpathian strategy. I would like to emphasize that these two initiatives show that European integration remains top priority for us. And now I would like to answer the questions that Anna mentioned. Yesterday, we had extraordinary meeting of the cabinet where we discussed the draft budget for 2021. Of course, we all had to recognize that we are witnessing huge challenges, including the COVID pandemic, and the budget which was approved, draft budget which was approved yesterday was based on the first possibilities and the challenges which the government has and which it faces. In this version of the draft budget, unfortunately, the regional development fund was considerably cut down. This does not mean that next year we will be unable to find the way out from the situation under precondition that the COVID pandemic would turn our development to positive direction. Our ministry, jointly with the Association of Local Communities, had drafted a program that for the next 3 years, the Regional Development Fund has to become 3% of GDP. We are moving to this target of 3% of GDP gradually. And during the year 2021, 2022, and 2023, we had to postpone the target figure for 2021, but I hope that eventually in 2022 we will come closer to the targeted growth of GDP figures allocated for Regional Development Fund. At the same time, today we are waiting for the presidential signature on the law which will finalize decentralization reform related to the distribution of assets and between municipal property and state property, and about the property of the state government administrations. I hope that I have answered your question, and I'm grateful to our international partners. And
Дякую, пане міністре.
I would like to assure you that the decentralization reform would be finalized. Thank you.
Щодо бюджету 2021, очевидно, вони хотіли би мати, скажімо, більше оптимізму і впевненості в тому, що на ті видатки, які стосуються не тільки ДФРР, субвенцій медичних, у нас буде більше спроможності. Але я думаю, що ми далі будемо дискутувати, бо в нас є дуже достойні представники Сумська, Полтавська, Львівська, Луганська, Рівненська, Миколаївська області. От, і це такі потужні регіони, і зараз ми надамо так само їм слово. Я хотіла би подякувати Катерині Матерновій за сьогоднішній виступ від Єврокомісії. Я думаю, що пані Катерина теж почула про ситуацію з бюджетом 2021 і які зараз є виклики можливості. Зараз ми переходимо до нашої другої панельної дискусії, яка звучить, як зробити Європейський Союз ближче до депутатів місцевих рад. Ми розглядаємо депутатів місцевих рад, мерів міст, як рушіями євроінтеграційного процесу. Тому зараз я хотіла би дати перше слово, щоб виступити, зокрема, в цій панелі Майклу Галеру, депутату Європейського парламенту, так трохи незвично, але він є спеціальним репортером по Україні, він працює в комітеті у закордонних справах Європейського парламенту, і всі знають пана Галера як людину, яка дуже віддано свій час інвестує в те, щоб реформа охорони здоров'я, децентралізації, реформи були успішні. Пане Галер, вам зараз слово. Будь ласка, запрошуємо, як ви бачите пріоритети Європарламенту, і, зокрема, скажімо, ви, як людина, яка представляє Німеччину, наші місцеві депутати запрошують відвідати регіони України, як свого часу Андріус Кобілєв робив велотур східною Україною. Тому, будь ласка, вам слово.
Based upon your visits to Ukrainian regions.
Yes, thank you very much, and hello to everyone who is joining, and I see always the usual suspects coming, and I'm happy about that because it's really a good community to discuss Ukrainian issues. And I would like, first of all, to underline everything that Katarina Matanova said in the previous panel. I think this program that we have supported, this U-Lead project that has been contributing to one of the major successes in Ukraine's reform process. And we also have supported that. My report on Ukraine, which has passed the Foreign Affairs Committee and is now awaiting to be voted in the plenary. In this regard, we say, we urge Ukraine to complete the decentralization reform in a broad and open dialogue, in particular with local self-governments and their associations, with the goal of increasing the autonomy and competences of local governments and encouraging regular exchanges between the central government and national associations of local and regional governments on any policy which may have a territorial impact. Why have we formulated this in this way? I think the success of the reform on the local level is for the normal citizens in their daily life, the real or the very practical experience that these reforms make a difference, that they have another feeling when they go to the local authority with any application or with any need or with any question, and they are felt to be considered as citizens who are delivered, who get a service that is delivered, and they are not subjects who have to ask humbly for a mercy. And I think insofar, I hear some people discussing in the back who have not switched off their mic. Well, that happens with many people attending. So I think that is so necessary, and as you said, a driver for reform. If that works well, I think the entire reform process will definitely get a boost, because what happens also on the local level when it is about investments, when investors come from within Ukraine or from outside, they appear on the local level, because all investments are grounded then in one or the other gromada, and the way that they are received there in a way where also so to say, they have the feeling that they are welcome and that the law is simply applied and they are getting the necessary support. That is something that will make the difference on the local level. I mean, we have followed some of the reforms and the last development, the latest development on this Rayon reform. I have to say I have my question marks. I think it has been pushed ahead without meaningful consultation and without being thought through properly. And the effect now is that the new rayons, lack clear definition of competences, and it's unclear if it's the level of the state administration or the level of local self-government with its own executive is responsible, or even both, a shared competence. That is unclear yet, and that needs to be clarified. I think that is something where intense, not only discussion, but clarification is needed. Who does what? Who is responsible for what? And insofar, I think there is still a need to discuss. I mean, we have in the past some months ago, when we had this discussion about the prefect system, that was on the one hand pushed quickly, but then withdrawn again as a change of the constitution. I would say thank God, because that's always already something that in a way has not been thought through properly, because if it were also in this regard with rayons, if it were something which leaves the competence unclear, that is then opening the way for corruption or ways to spend money from the one or the other side, or to have competing competences that doesn't serve the purpose. So I hope that in the foreseeable future that these things will be clarified, because that is essential for the effectiveness of the people that are administering on the local level. And I think what one can already see is that there are different qualities of delivering on the reforms. So there are those communities where the services and general administration is perceived by the citizens to have been more efficient than in others. I mean, we have seen in the local elections that there are those who have been re-elected, others have not been re-elected. I'm not now going into the detail of how it went in this or that specific circumstances. There are certainly issues also to be improved. But in general, I think that those who could already deliver better have also been rewarded by the voters, and others not. Insofar, I think, and I hope also that the lessons learned from the reform process thus far will be addressed, and that in a way, those who are supervising that they assess in a way of making best practice or assessing best practice, that becomes then the role model for others who are not yet delivering in the best way. So I think that is one of the advantages that we already see now. There are different ways to deliver, and the best way, of course, should be the one that should be the way forward. And I hope that also in this process, once the competences are really clear and also the financial flows are very clear, what goes where and how that is all controlled by the newly elected councils, I think there is a really good chance to show the difference from the time before. And I'm always a fan of what we call twinning. So if there are local partnerships with cities in the European Union, in whatever country, that are either existing or through the Council of Europe, there is a, so to say, a kind of clearing house where there are demands or requests for partnerships. I would recommend to all who do not yet have a twin city in the European Union to seek one. We have experienced in our own transition period after the end of communism, when it was about to really elect or to build up democratic structures and the responsible structures, that such twinning has had a tremendous positive effect to learn from partners. And that is one of the additional recommendations that I see, how to proceed and at the end to deliver better to the people, and which will then strengthen the trust of the citizens in the system as a whole, where also the other levels will then profit. Because as I said at the beginning, when you deliver well on the local level, the people will realize it directly, not if any minister in Kyiv does something good or bad, that is not so directly, but on the local level, that is where the real life takes place and where things have to function. And in this regard, you have all our support, and it's good to have these discussions, and that are hopefully leading even to better results than that what we have already achieved, and that is a lot, and congratulations for that. Thank you.
Дякую, Михаель. Я думаю, що після вашого виступу ви отримаєте декілька реквестів, запитів на міста побратими, зокрема і в Німеччині. А зараз я хотіла би надати слово уже нашим учасникам і хотіла б розпочати із новообраного мера міста Рівного. Це Олександра Третяка, коли розпочалась місцева кампанія, був на 9-й сходинці, і ніхто не вірив, що він зможе перемогти. Тому зараз я хотіла б запросити Олександра Третяка, як мера міста Рівного, від Європейської солідарності. Пане Олександре, які ваші очікування від уряду, особливо після виступу віце-прем'єр-міністерки Ольги Стефанишиної та міністра Чернишова, і які ваші очікування від Європейського Союзу? Будь ласка, але прошу всіх спікерів 2-3 хвилини, не більше, і дуже стисло висловлювати свої думки і рекомендації. Будь ласка, запрошуємо Олександра Третяка.
When you provide your speeches. The floor is given to Mr. Tretyak.
Пане Олександре, ви є зараз з нами на зв'язку?
Alexander, do you hear us?
Будь ласка.
Yeah, greetings to all. Hello everyone, greetings from Rivne. I'm Alexander Tretyak, and as newly elected mayor of this wonderful city, just want to invite all of you to come and welcome to Rivne. And I just want to say thank you so much for Hanna and Andrius for this opportunity to join to your platform and to be as a partner and to participate in different communications platforms and so on. So as a newly elected mayor, I just want to say that we have too many issues, too many challenges that we need to answer to. So, but first of all, I just want to admit that we need a special assistance in 2 areas. First of all, we need to speak about local small and medium business, how to help them and how to build a good relation. Because in a couple of days before, we could have round tables with local business, and we were discussing about the communication between local authorities and between business. So as as they mentioned that there are no any communication platform between these two participants. So first of all, we need to speak about how to support local small and medium business, because they had the most significant losses during the COVID crisis. And now we are working on establishing a proper dialogue between them and municipal authorities, so we could help them at least to survive and to help to develop their business. The second one about our. The second one, we need to speak about the participation in different projects within the Green Deal, because when we're speaking about environmental, it's a big challenge for our city, especially in water resourcement, because we need to start to clean our rivers, our water resourcement, and we want to start just to be part of these projects, and we need to start these programs. So we are welcome. We just need to speak about help of European Union to help to be part of different projects in this case. So friends, just want to say thank you so much one more time for your interest in Ukraine, and especially for our cities. Just want to admit a big impact what you are doing. So thank you, and thank you, Hannah, thank you, Andreas, and
thank you, Alexander. Thank you, Alexander, for your participation. And thank you for your key priorities you already mentioned. I would add probably the situation with pandemic and the assistance that EU provided us to deal with. Зараз я хотіла би передати слово пану Юрієвову, голові Тростянецької об'єднаної територіальної громади, якого було переобрано вже головою. От і Сумська область, яку представляє пан Юрій Бова, він надзвичайно важлива для України. Вона знаходиться по сусідству з Російською Федерацією. Ну і пан Юрій за свою каденцію попередньо достатньо успішно, і він є один з найуспішніших
one of the most successful heads of agencies in Ukraine. Why I mentioned Sumska Oblast? This is the territory of Derkach. Derkach was recognized by the Ministry of Justice of US as Russian agent, but he is the deputy of the Verkhovna Rada at the same time. And these local elections were really important because really good people, professional people won. And this is a success. This is important for de-oligarchization and in order not to have local feudals who would want to rule the regions and to continue to steal or be engaged in corruption. That's why transparency provided by Yuri Boba, this allowed him to win during these elections. Thank you very much, Ganna, for this wonderful presentation, an introduction of me personally and the changes that are going on in our region. We are the territory that is near the border, and here we feel some sentiments. And I would like to say one thing, speaking about my personal result. Maybe this is not just the result of the concrete work that we carried out in our town during the last 3 years. Our community developed and created several successful models of self-government and medical, educational sphere, and sports and youth and other sectors. And we created drivers for other gramadas and territories. And I believe that the result that we got, it is
it demonstrates, I believe, expectations of our rural population that joined our community. 12 village territories united, 8,000 rural population. 80 or 90% of trust were expressed personally to me in small villages and bigger villages, and this was really a surprise for me, because when I came there, I saw why it happened. Anna said about Russian party, our region. This was a terrible pressure and pressure from their campaigning, and we understood what results this may have, and we should not lose this territory. And we have the chance for this, and we thank our European partners that support Ukraine. Including support for decentralization reform. We thank the Ministry of the Regional Development and all those experts who participated in the reform. And now we have the final stage of provision of responsibility to local self-government bodies. And it is important that newly created bodies of local self-government should implement and to execute those expectations of people. If we do not do those concrete steps to improve the lives of people in rural areas, there will be disillusion of people, and Sumshina, Kharkivshina, Chernigivshina, those regions will be under Russian influence, and this will be a threat to our sovereignty of Ukraine in the future. Not to have such a scenario like in Crimea and Donbass in this territory. We should promote real, serious social, economic infrastructure projects in order to quickly in this territory start to make order, proper order here, because this region suffered from inefficiency of management and schools were closed, no infrastructure, no drinking water in wells, no central water supply. The wastes are not taken out of the settlements, and we have sessions and we think how to help, but without the help of international partners, it would be difficult to do. Also, today we see that I had the platform on the budget issues, and we are not heard concerning infrastructure subsidy that was taken away from us, and the state do not hear us concerning the issues of increase of the number of percentage of income from physical persons that should go to local budget, because the state provides additional burden to us by liquidating the councils and the administrations and providing the responsibilities and they economize the resources of the state. They transfer those issues of social policy and other issues to local level, and the state should look at this not at some wishes of local government bodies. We are partners. Local government bodies should help the state on the whole and the state body, and together with state administrations, together with the president, the government, with the ministries, they should implement a single policy of revival of Ukraine and improvement of life of people in different territories. Institutional support of the communities is really important, and support of the European Union is really important. Infrastructure is the main issue here. It is lacking, and subsidies will be missing next year, and the territory is huge. We need water supply pipes, we need buses, we should repair roads, buy road equipment, and there should be maintenance and services for the equipment, and disposal of waste is important, and local government actively support the state and help to fight pandemic. and use huge resources for hospitals, lung ventilator equipment and PPE. And the second issue that is really important is social infrastructure objects repair in rural areas. As of today, schools, clubs, and cultural centers in rural areas, they are at the level of 1980s, like in the Soviet Union, and people do not feel the access to internet, to infrastructure, and this issue should be resolved. One more important issue is help to create general plans and strategies of development of rural areas, because this is the foundation to build on the life in rural areas. And several words about pandemic. Today, we should say that the state will provide responsibilities for the secondary healthcare, for responsibility for hospitals. And we are ready to take this responsibility, and we demonstrated quality management of such hospitals, and we should understand that this reform should be done quickly, and to rebuild all those hospitals. And we should be able to accept COVID patients and all other patients who need medical help, because life of people is reduced because of because the healthcare proper healthcare is lacking. And also we should create employment in rural areas. Agri holdings, they do not provide a lot of employment, and the only way how to get employed in rural areas, this is cooperation, family farms, and I believe that EU program to support SMEs in rural areas, these projects will be really useful in 2020, 2021, and then people won't go to Poland because there is pandemic and they need work where people live. And I would like to say to Mikhail, he raised the issue about the regions, about responsibilities of the region, and using this opportunity that maybe the Ministry of Regional Development now listens to us. I believe regional council should deal exclusively with help of local self-government in the implementation of their strategies, and to create a strategy for development of the region, and to envisage the joint projects concerning waste management, transport issue, education, and also employment, and also maybe to provide responsibilities for oblast administrations to the and the regional councils. They should see what is implemented in their territories, and together with local self-government, they should lobby the interests of self-government. And here we see important help, important function at the regional level. They should have this advisory function, not managing function concerning asset management, for example. So I invite you to Sumshina, to Trastinets. We would like to show you best practices in local self-government, and of course the problems that we face in this territory, including in the territory of Sumshina.
Сумщина дійсно стратегічно важлива для
України. Sumy region is strategically important for Ukraine, not just because it is on the border, at the border with the Russian Federation. We have many speakers today, and I would ask you to focus on the interesting ideas which were mentioned by Mr. Mikhail Waller.
Олександра Сенкевича,
I'm happy to invite to the microphone Mr. Alexander Sienkiewicz from Mykolaiv city. This is important Ukrainian city in the south. The southeast is very sensitive region for Ukraine. Alexander was recently re-elected. After Alexander, we will have Volodymyr Chmatko from Kyiv. Then we will have Mr. Ivan Lukera, Deputy Minister, then Vadim Galachuk from the Verkhovna Rada Committee on European Integration, and then we will have representatives from Lutsk, from Lviv, from the Luhansk region. I would ask you to speak briefly and in a very concentrated way, so to say. So, Alexander Sienkiewicz, we are happy to welcome you with this victory. Mykolaiv has 300,000 residents. We understand that pro-Russian forces are rather powerful there, and for Ukraine it's quite important to back up this front region. Mykolaiv is a city, and in the past it was a seaport, shipbuilding city, and we are happy to know your opinion. Yes, you're quite right. Mykolaiv is not an easy city in terms of Euro integration. Several years ago in the municipal council, we had 2/3 of members who were the party of the regions members. In the previous convocation, we had more than half the opposition bloc, and in the current convocation of our local self-government, we will have only 1/3 instead of half members representing from the opposition bloc. This reflects positive dynamics in terms of the pro-Ukrainian forces influence in the region. As for the Congress of the, unfortunately, the sound disappeared. Connection. In Mykolaiv, we had established the Center for Support of IDPs and the Anti-Terrorist Operation Servicemen. We had started this program jointly with the Ministry of Occupied Territories, and this is based on the grant that we received from the World Bank. For the last 10 years, we had been implementing the water supply modernization project implemented jointly with the European Bank for Reconstruction and Development. The project has been working rather successfully. It was ratified and extended for 5 years. And I hope that in 2023, Mykolaiv will have a very clean water supply and very clean water discharge to the Dnipro River. Also, we have another EBRD project in our pipeline about procurement of 60 trolley buses, and out of that quantity, 20 trolley buses will operate autonomously from renewable sources. We were one of the among the first cities in Ukraine who developed independent transport strategy, and we are now introducing electronic tickets which will modernize this municipal transport system and its funding considerably. This latter project is quite standard, so to say, and it seems to me that many cities in Ukraine have similar issues with infrastructure, and it would be good for Ukraine to introduce a unified competition, unified scheme for application for infrastructural projects, and this would be for the sake and for great benefits of Ukrainian people. This will be also very convenient for financial institutions, which will, and this approach, unified approach, may allow very efficient application and access to financial resources. My background, I graduated from the Kyiv Polytechnic Institute and the Mykolaiv branch of the Kyiv Mohila Academy, and I strongly believe that we should join the centralized electronic services in Ukraine instead of inventing a bicycle at the local level. Now, each Ukrainian city participates in a virtual competition whose local services, central centers of administrative services are the best, while all those services could be provided everywhere in Ukraine based on the centralized level. This again is another piece of European experience which could be introduced successfully in Ukraine. In order to do this, we have to create a unified state register instead of 36 different registers existent all around Ukraine. This promotes corruption. This prevents from smooth delivery of administrative services to Ukrainians. Ukraine is a very interesting country from its traditions of cuisine, music, etc. But it's strange for me why we try to invent a bicycle in the areas which now are well used and well done in other states. Thank you, Alexander. I hope that successful curb of pandemic would allow us to meet personally. And I was very pleased to hear that the share of pro-Russian forces in the municipal council is slowly dropping, and that we were pleased to hear your positive experience and introduction of the European practices. I'm now happy to move from Mykolaiv to Ternopil.
Ви послухали виступ міністра пана Олексія Чернишова, міністра розвитку громад та територій. Як вам виглядає ситуація з бюджетом 2021 і особливо тими можливостями, закладеними, що стосується підтримки органів місцевого самоврядування?
Draft state budget for this next year. What do you think, whether it is enough for local self-governments? Thank you so much for bringing me to this event. For me, it's a big honor because we are a small city and nevertheless we are marvelous city, and for us, for those who work on the local policy, it's a great opportunity. I would like to thank, to use this opportunity and to thank all the taxpayers of the Soviet Union, from the European Union, excuse me, who sacrificed their taxes for the support of Ukraine in this tough times of war, Russian aggression. Of course, we feel ourselves that we are at the front line, and we feel it's the right moment to develop our neighborhood relations with our partners. During the last 5 years of decentralization, we found a lot of opportunities for the local community. The decentralization reform that was launched but not has finished yet, but we believe that it will eventually be finished, and financial support that was allocated for that, it was very useful. I would like to thank to the ULEAD project and Ms. Katerina Maternova personally for that Center of Administrative Services, which was opened based on this project. Some years ago, when we visited Europe, we draw attention to the issues and problems faced by small towns, and I'm very grateful for all of that, because we have seen very good results. I would like to emphasize that we are not requesting for money from European Union. We are requesting for your assistance and good advice. We would like to bring more businesses to our regions. We want to create projects which would promote business development. We have created we allocated land and created the industrial park. We are now organized all the infrastructure networks around it. Hannah asked about our attitude towards the budget for the next year. I understand the challenges. I would not like to be in their shoes today. But we do not think that the money for solution of national issues should be taken from local population. That's incorrect approach. Our national, our technical park, for example, we need support from the national government to finalize pipelines, logistics, etc. But if we are deprived from the income from the personal income tax, we would not be able to finalize this project. keeping in mind that many Ukrainians work abroad, they come back to Kyiv, they want to launch their businesses, but they don't know how. And we have created a Kyiv business hub, which would allow us to nurture those people who want to develop local business here. And we need some resources for this. We should not struggle for the money. We should not struggle for the dropped budget. We should learn how to earn money ourselves. Finalizing my intervention, I would like to thank to you for your support to local self-governments, which will give impetus to further development of Ukraine. And I'm happy to invite you to Kyiv. We would be happy to see Hanna, to see Katerina, and
Дякую, пане Володимире, який представляє партію «Сила людей». Ми сьогодні, коли запрошували представників місцевого самоврядування, то якраз намагалися географічно покрити різні області України і також підійти до того, щоб в нас були представники різних політичних сил і показати, що в Україні справжня демократія. Тому дякуємо за ці ідеї, озвучені щодо фінансування і, зокрема, індустріального парку і бізнес-хабу. Приємно, коли голови мають ідеї, як заробляти гроші, а не тільки просять уряду дайте нам гроші, хоча уряд теж має розставляти пріоритети, не збільшувати видатки на правоохоронні органи, МВС і так далі. Тому тут теж важливо, щоб була чітка стратегія. Друзі, у нас є ще декілька представників місцевого самоврядування, плюс я хотіла б сказати, що крім Андрюса Кубілюса, Михаеля Галлера, у нас є інші депутати Європейського парламенту, як Віола фон Крамон, Петрас Аустрявіцус, також у нас є Анна Фотига. Тому ми хочемо сказати, що в Європарламенті у нас є друзі України, які сьогодні слухають наших представників місцевого самоврядування, щоб потім шукати партнерства від тих країн, які вони представляють, і також шукати інвестиції і спільно працювати. Зараз, друзі, я хотіла б дати слово Вадиму Галайчуку, який є першим заступником профільного комітету Верховної Ради України з євроінтеграції. Олександр Сенкевич порушив питання, що міста готові брати кредити від європейських фінансових інституцій, але важливо, щоб не було тих ускладнень, які є під час кредитування, від оформлення документів, антимонопольний комітет і так далі. Пане Вадиме, ви зараз з нами на зв'язку. Розкажіть, будь ласка, які пріоритети комітету з євроінтеграції, співпраці з Європейського Союзу, і після того, як ви почули всі ключові завдання, очікування новообраних депутатів, що в порядку денному Верховної Ради, крім імплементації угоди про асоціацію?
What Verkhovna Rada is planning and respond actually to what we have heard. Hanna, thank you for introduction. I hope you can see me well.
Так, чути, будь ласка.
And hear me well. Thank you. We can hear you. My participation in today's event became possible, and I'm happy, and I'm looking at that as an opportunity to get a new perspective and to become maybe part of solution to your problems. It's important for me to know what you expect from us as from the legislative body. During the past period, I've gained a very interesting experience of my work in the parliamentary committee. I've discovered that we have to rethink the reason for Euro integration. The association agreement opens huge opportunities for us, which we actually waste. There are many projects and there are even money available for implementation of those projects, or and those money could be used at the local level. That's why we decided to build up a network of the Euro integration offices at local level. Recently, we launched this office in Kherson region. Now we are planning such offices in Poltava, Kharkiv, and Khmelnytsky, and speed up coordination between Verkhovna Rada and local self-governments in Euro integration. Of course, legislative work for us is a priority. And now, after the first year of our work, we realized the huge scale of the needed legislative drafting. Among our work plan, among our action plan, we have Euro integrational pieces of legislation. That in this context, it was useful to hear what local self-governments need from us. In this context, it was very useful to hear that we should standardize the procedure of grant application or application for some funds, and this will speed up the process of launching many projects and simplify life, so to say, for local self-governments. In Mykolaiv, they had a project with the European Investment Bank, and it was quite difficult for them to ratify the agreement with the bank. When we have heard about that problem, we resolved it very quickly, but the reason for non-ratification, for the delay of ratification was quite strange because of lack of communication, because of improper procedure and improper communication. By the way, the local elections are not finished totally, but the majority of local communities have elected their leaders, and we immediately felt a lot of demand for support, especially among newly elected mayors. And we see a huge demand for information about existent opportunities. The European Integration Office in Kherson, which was mentioned today, they have offered some very interesting projects which might be interesting not only at the local level but at the national level. For example, they are starting monitoring of marine resources in Ukraine. Kherson is a unique city. And the project promises to become the not only local project, but the national level project. The same is true about potable water, cleaning of potable water, and this local businesses are ready to participate, and the technical aspects of the project would involve the best global experiences, that is water resources assessment, water resources treatment, and water resources use might become the very important, crucial case for Ukraine at the national level. This again illustrates huge opportunities for cooperation of local self-governments, national Verkhovna Rada and European colleagues. But they might hope that you will remain with us, and our colleagues from the European Parliament are ready to participate in this discussion. Now I would like to invite our European partners, members of the European Parliament. I'm happy to give the floor to Mr. Leonid Litra from the New Europe Center, who made a rating of the European integration of Ukrainian regions, and after Leonid's presentation, I will give the floor to the European Parliament. I will invite Ms. Viola von Kramon for her intervention. Then we will have representatives from Lutsk, Luhansk, and Poltava. Thank you.
Really happy to see, I'm extremely happy to see these discussions taking place, because at the New always say that it is not Kyiv integrating into the EU, it is the entire Ukraine. And we need to make sure that all the regions are on the same page when it comes to reforms implemented at the local level. You already presented our publication, which we did on the rating of the regions of Ukraine in terms of European integration. We analyzed 50 indicators, and we do this to try to, in order to advocate for a healthy competition between the regions of Ukraine, and also to share, in a way, the best practices from across the country, so that people from one region learn about something that others do in other regions. And you may find I won't go into details, you may find the publication on our webpage. I would like maybe to share a few details, few conclusions out of our work. And one of the first conclusion is that the regions of Ukraine have a multi-speed level of integration. Basically, we see regions which are more successful and we see regions which are less successful. And oftentimes there are quite, how to say, static reasons, quite clear reasons why this happens. In some cases, this is about geographic proximity, but there are also reasons which could change, such as the human resources. It's very important to have a qualified team of professionals at the local level who work with you and who know elements of, interacting with other regions in the EU, who know how to communicate with various stakeholders at central government, embassies, EU countries, and so on. So I think here is one very important element for successful cooperation. And from this element, I could give my second recommendations, which we see is that people need to, decision makers at the local level need to hire people who speak English, and it's necessarily that they themselves speak English. I saw the newly elected mayor of Rivne who has a very good level of English, and I think it's for him, as for other people who do this, it's very easy to establish contact and do the networking, the right networking, for the basically the support of the reforms at the local level by their counterparts in EU and in EU delegation and embassies. So next recommendation which I have is to carefully analyze the opportunities offered by the European Union. Katarina Maternova already mentioned some of them. There are plenty of opportunities offered by the European Union. And oftentimes we see actually that not all of the regions of Ukraine make use of these opportunities, even though these are available. And I think that local mayors, amalgamated communities, and so on, they need to have a careful look at the web pages of EU delegation, of embassies of various member states like Germany, which is very active in decentralization reform and so on. So I think this is one of the important elements. Next recommendation is to consult all the decisions, important decisions you take at the local level with the population at the local level. I think this is the way it works in the EU, in most of the countries which I've been, and I visited all except 2 countries in the EU. I saw this is very strong link between decisions made by the leaders of local communities and their people. And nothing is more powerful than a decision, a project which is supported by the. So I think this is very important element of the work and of pushing basically reforms at the local level. And maybe last recommendation, because I was asked to, but I have only 3 minutes, is to expand your networking. Networking and people bring investment money because they find out about opportunities which you have. And I was impressed by the projects which the speaker from Kyiv mentioned about their local projects. And I think this is very important to expand the twinning as well, because we see that a part of Ukraine, mostly in the Western Ukraine, we have communities and cities which have a very strong link with regions and cities in the EU countries, and we see Central Eastern Ukraine, which is less connected, but still there are some good examples. So I think this should be one of the key points as well, because this is the best way to import best practices and to share your basically opinion about difficulties you have. So I'll stop here, Hannah.
Thank you, Leonid. You will hear another speakers on behalf from Ukraine speaking English soon. Just please stay with us. So Viola von Kramon, our good friend of Ukraine, the floor is yours.
Well, okay. Perfect. Thanks a lot, Hannah. Thanks to all the organizers. I think this is a very important topic, and I'm so glad that you raised it. While we all know that, let's start with the credit and the belief in the or trust in political institutions, political structures are not very high generally in Ukraine. Well, we have seen after the project of decentralization, which is really successful or was and is successfully implemented by all the actors on the European level, but also and especially on the local level in Ukraine. And we are pretty proud. We have heard Alexander Sienkiewicz, who nobody expected 5 years ago or 6 years ago to win this election. And now he's even being re-elected. Even he had a hard time being kicked out and accused for really strange things. And so I remember when I've met him the first time, it was before he got elected, and he was so depressed, and he never, even he himself didn't believe he could win. And now, I mean, what he has done after 5 years, that's amazing. And even against the majority in the council and against the majority in his own administration. So I think this is important to say that if you have a person, if you have a, let's say, capacity who knows what he or she wants, and he has an idea how to use this decentralization project and the structures and the opportunities given by the text generating idea and the other local service idea, how to satisfy your own people in the city, in the community. This is just great. And I think for me, Mykolaiv was always one of the best examples, yeah? Coming from far behind, let's put it this way, and really taking step by step in a very, let's say, transparent and a very service-orientated way, client-orientated, consumer-orientated way. And so they have really asked us as foreigners, we didn't know each other. So how would you think, is that a good idea? And how would you address that? And how can we, as you have mentioned, and Leonid also, how can we reach out to twin cities in the western part and so on and so forth? And so I think Mykolaiv is a very good example to show that even you are, let's say, a red industrial former Soviet capital in the east or in central Ukraine, you can make a lot out of this. And this is mainly happened due to the decentralization project. And I've met so many other mayors during the last, let's say, 6 years after the decentralization become officially, that I would see the main points of success was that they had to start because they had to offer something to their citizens. They had to offer something to their people to show that the local level can deliver and can bring more services. So they started what Leonie has said, to look for better people, for really reliable human resources, which were much better than they had before. They started with a more merit-based employment. It was more transparent what kind of procurement they had launched and so on. And the social peer aspect, I think, is important. Why we have seen on this small and medium amalgamated cities, people become aware of what's going on. Something has changed. Why has it changed? How can we be involved? What are they doing with the money? So there is a debate going on in the communities. People become interested, people become aware of things are evolving, and we are part of this. And this is what I really liked traveling through Ukraine, talking to people, that there is not this apathy anymore. It's not that, well, what can I do? They understand and they become aware of that it is up to them to be engaged, to try to participate, to raise also amongst the peers that it is up to the administration, the council, the mayor to change things. And if that's not sufficient, they have to become engaged themselves. And that's what I guess was also one of the reasons why you had a lot of new faces now during the last local elections. It was not always in the way how we hoped then, let's say, the response from the constituents and from the voters would be, but you have seen a lot of new lists and new attempts to be involved into this process of decision making. And I think for, let's say, put it in general, this is a big step forward for Ukraine, and to compare to many other countries, even in the European Union, I think Ukraine has made a huge step forward. And so in general, I would just congratulate everyone who is working in this project. And if you have any question also compared to concerning the Twin City question, or let's say more an exchange on a technical level, teachers exchange or other exchange, I think this would be also important to bring it together. Or what Leonid had said, well, I think it's very important, this inter-Ukrainian mobility. So many people from the East have never left their oblast, their region. And the same is true for people in the West. And with this decentralization project, they came together, they spoke about their projects, and they spoke about their successes, their weaknesses, their strengths. And this really empowered people in their local communities and in the biggest cities how to improve their own structures. And I think that was just great and helped a lot for everyone.
Thank you, Viola. So now let's move to Ukrainian side. And I'm ready to give the floor to Alexander Lazuka, newly and first time elected member or deputy of Lutsk City Council, which is very important, knowing that Lutsk and Volyn region, also transborder region, with big influence of Mr. Kolomoisky and his business partner, Mr. Palitya. So it's really important that people, well-experienced professional, will fight at local city council with the representatives of oligarchs. And just after Alexander Lazuka, please, we will be happy to listen to Vladimir Timoshevich and Petras Austravichus, and then Ukrainians again. And Andrius, I remember about you, but please. So, Mr. Lazuka, the floor is.
Thank you very much. I hope you hear me.
Yeah.
Thank you, thanks. So, Ms. Musabka, Ms. Stefanishna, Ms. Maternova, Mr. Kudus, all the honorable MPs, all the participants, thank you very much for the invitation and the opportunity to share the views, to say thank you for the support and express the concerns that we have currently, not only in our region, but I think these concerns will be shared all over Ukraine, actually, concerning the local self-government. As was mentioned already, the quality of Ukrainian democracy, the potential for European integration, the quality of public sector services provided, they do rely greatly on the local self-government, greatly or totally in some cases. And that's why the reform that came up in 2015 gave us an enormous boost. I will note that I'm really lucky enough to be re-elected. That means that I had a chance to work for 5 years at the city council as a city councillor. And I do know how the situation changed, actually, because we were the first convocation to feel the actual results and outcomes of the reform that started. And we continue to see the results now, even though there are some complications, but we'll discuss that a bit further. I won't stop on all the advancements that we've made. All the honorable mayors mentioned that already. I won't stop on that. Yeah, I will dare to say that the decentralization reform should be mentioned and as one of the most successful, actually. But still, we have to admit the fact that local amalgamated communities, they do face a number of issues. I won't stop on those that were mentioned already. I won't stop on the projects that we are working at in Lutsk right now. We've got 3 projects concerning public transportation, wastewater management, and public services, and those sort of things. I would rather stop on the instruments that we use, and we would really like to say thank you for those instruments, but I also ask you to prolong those instruments for us to be able to benefit from them mutually in the future as well. I have to admit the fact that some communities have a lack of institutional memory, I would say, or professionals to execute the new powers they've got. In this respect, special in-service training would be really useful for them. As far as I know, the program on decentralization support from the Council of Europe in the action plan covers this issue partially, but unfortunately the action plan ends at 2021. So we should really come up with something to prolong the cooperation in this field. I would also say that cross-border cooperation that was mentioned not once today shows to be really effective in my city, in my region. I would love to mention the cooperation program of Poland, Belarus, and Ukraine, which unfortunately ends as well. It was started in 2004 under the European Neighborhood Instrument and was really effective. We've got around 280 projects financed in the three mentioned countries with a total budget of around 400 million euros. That's mostly, those projects were mostly financed by the European Union, but there was also minor co-financing from the local authorities. But those projects appear to be really effective, and I see the results in my city during my past convocation, and we do have plans for this as well. So yeah, this instrument was really effective. We've got partner cities, sister cities, in Germany, in Poland, in Lithuania. So this instrument was really effective, and we're willing to share that experience with the rest of the participants. And I would really love to use the chance and to invite all the participants, the colleagues from all Ukraine and MEPs to come, let's say to Lutsk. Let's put it this way, let's not invite people to some separate cities like Lutsk or Kremenchuk or any other city. Let us collect in some, let us try to collect for some kind of forum in one city. Let's say, I hope that colleagues from Poland and Lithuania remember about Congress of European Monarchs that used to take place in Lutsk in 1429. Why don't we try to, recover the spirit, but not only the festive spirit, but also the spirit of cooperation and international cooperation. So wholeheartedly warm welcome to Lutsk, to all the participants, let's say in 2021 in autumn. Hopefully the pandemic will allow us finally to get back to normal life and normal work. And I do mean what I'm saying now. The official invitations will follow as soon as it will be possible. I know, summing up, we just got the inaugural ceremony of the 8th convocation of the Lutsk City Council. So that's the best mood and time for me to congratulate all the newly elected or re-elected colleagues back in Ukraine. This session shows that we have really highly qualified representatives with really high potential. And I do wish all of you best of luck and effectiveness in your work. I'm really proud to see that we have representatives who are able to change not only their communities, but maybe the country as a whole in the future as well. But let's stay effective where we are now. So
thank you, Alexander, for your wonderful speech and your invitation. So you know that we have a dream to meet in 2029 in Lutsk, and the 600th anniversary of big historical event. But now I kindly invite Mr. Vladimir Timoshevich, who represents the Social Democratic Group and who is the vice chair of a special committee on foreign interference in all democratic processes in the European Union, including disinformation. It is really very important topic because during the local election in Ukraine, there are different attempts from pro-Russian forces to use media for fakes, for Jinsa and many other issues. But today we are talking about local self-government and cooperation between the EU and Poland, Lithuania. So thanks for being with us for all this almost 2 hours. So please, now the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Hello, everybody. You know, half of my family comes from Łódź, so this is very special for me, first to listen to the representative of Łódź and then to take floor after him. Let me tell him that there was a kind of precedent meeting of the representatives of Ukraine, Lithuania and Poland already 15 years ago. In that time, I was Speaker of Polish Parliament, and we met with the Speaker of Verkhovna Rada, Mr. Litwin, and the Speaker of Lithuanian Seimas in Lutsk. Since we are almost out of time, I will be very, very brief. Let me just tell you that one of the first reforms we undertook at the very beginning of Polish political transformation was a local self-government reform. It was done in less than 1 year after we started changing our country. 15 years later, having a lot of experience of that kind, I had the opportunity to have a long conversation with the then president of Ukraine, Mr. Yushchenko, and I tried to convince him that doing the same would be very important for everybody, for the central government, that will no more be responsible for everything everywhere, but it will also make the system of governing the country much more effective. And that is always a foundation for building a civic society, which is a basic precondition of having a stable democracy in the country. Unfortunately, for next years, I followed with growing frustration lack of real move in that direction. So today, it's my deep satisfaction that I believe that we can praise the recent steps undertaken toward decentralizing the public authorities and of course, money. This is one of the issues or principles that should be aligned. The sharing of the responsibility must be backed by sharing the resources. And of course, I understand that today, in a terrible time of pandemic, the central government has to face very, very difficult and dramatic challenge. And that may disturb the transfer of money for a certain period of time. But it should be clear to everybody that it must be continued in the future. Otherwise, the local government may become a fiction. One of the representatives of local authorities said that you don't need so much money, but you need advice and investments. There should be no problem with the first, with fulfilling the first demand. A representative of Łódź was speaking about the cooperation with Polish and Lithuanian partners. As far as investments, foreign investments are involved, we must understand that it is a matter of stability of legal framework and of the obligations of the central government. I remember the Yulia Tymoshenko government rejecting earlier promises for foreign investors that resulted in pulling back many of businesses, foreign businesses in Ukraine. It cannot happen anymore in the future. And finally, always when I'm talking about problems faced by Ukraine, there is one on the very top: corruption. I am very satisfied with what the present government and the present Verkhovna Rada has done, but you must continue that. Fight corruption, fight corruption, corruption. This is the most important task for all of you. Thank you.
Thank you, Vladimir. And now I would like to pass the floor to a friend of Ukraine representing Lithuania. And I'm so happy that in Lithuania, we have from both political parties, key players, understanding of geopolitical importance of Ukraine and true support of our reforms. So Mr. Auštrevičius, as a member of your delegation to the EU-Ukraine Parliamentary Association Committee, thanks for being with us. Thanks for all your reforms dedication. And after your speech, I'm kindly inviting representative from Poltava, newly elected Yulia Horochanina, and then Yulia from Lviv. And we have also very important representative from Luhansk Oblast, Yana Litvinova. head of amalgamated community Starobilsk. So I think it's really important also to hear the voice of Lugansk region, because it's a front line with Russian aggression. So, but now, Mr. Auštrevičius, we're so happy to see you here today with us, please.
Thank you, Hannah. Thank you, Andres, for inviting and getting together. I mean, a possibility to express. You know, in times of pandemia, politicians become a bit stranded into the corner. I mean, we have to be given a possibility to speak out and to express ourselves. Otherwise, we might become a very dangerous element within the society. That's for joke. But in fact, I want to start from a very good news, which I heard in recent days from Ukraine, that the government of Ukraine has agreed the next year budget with IMF. It's really a great news for macro financial stability. It's something what everybody is looking at. I mean, having this agreement, it paves the way for further cooperation with IMF, which is a conditional, by the way, for European Union support, macro financial support to Ukraine, and many, many other issues, including confidence from investors. In fact, recently we saw in Ukraine probably two major events, local elections, which by many assessments were not a step, maybe more steps forward, maybe some back, because there was some votes bribing attempts, use of administrative capital, but nevertheless, I mean, the overall assessment on elections was positive, which is, again, a recognition of institutional capacity. I mean, Central Election Commission of Ukraine made a good job. After all critics, I mean, were expressed against them, but nevertheless, I mean, it's a positive, again, assessment. And on decentralization, you know, I mean, to change the administrative map of any country, I mean, doesn't matter of size. It's not one day, you know, decision. To make a decision, it's one thing. To implement the decision and to live with the decision already made some time ago, it's the same important part of the overall process. In fact, I do congratulate most sincerely all councillors, local councillors and mayors elected during the elections. It's great. I hope, I mean, the financial side of the decentralization process is moving along. Because, I mean, to leave local governments with no finances and again, to rely on goodwill of the central government, and we know, I mean, how many, you know, different circumstances might emerge. I mean, a different political party, different coalitions. So it's, again, an important issue. I'm sure, I mean, the Ukrainian authorities will have to be back to decentralization from time to time because it's normal. It's somehow usually accepted situation because to complete this reform will take time and political will. But things are moving. And as we heard already, there is a different kind of contact with local people because local governments, I mean, became more capable, I mean, to get into the touch with local people and feel much better, I mean, the needs of those people. What is important? I call on the European Union, and in fact, it should be one of the strategic fields of our cooperation. I mean, to continue supporting and implementing to the final point, if needed, some corrections, but it's normal, as I said, to implement decentralization program. And the European Union should pay enough of attention as well as financial support to see all that happening. I mean, not just on paper, but in reality. And I'm sure, I mean, it will be done because from EU side, it was one of the major preconditions, I mean, for our future cooperation. And insisting on this reform, pushing Ukraine, I think it was the right thing to do. Administrative capacity. In fact, many many local authorities, I mean, really short of administrative capacity. And it's understandable why. New councillors, new realities, new people. And to improve this situation, we need, again, an assisting hand instrument from the EU side, rightly mentioned. Twinning should be employed as much as possible. I hope there is a good coordination in this regard, because, you know, if there will be no coordination and everybody will be looking around for some help and so on, maybe central government might call for interest from the local governments, as well as invite European Commission to coordinate and member states to provide their input into this would be a great thing. From my experience, I can tell you, Ukrainian friends, that twinning, in spite of that it's not really a financial instrument, there is some small money behind, indeed, but not much. I mean, it's something different, but it speaks and it does something very tangible on improving administrative capacity, sharing experience, bringing right people. One expert on environment protection, another one on infrastructure, the third one on healthcare and education, and so on and so forth. So, I mean, this is something what is so needed for the time of being, and I believe will be an expansion of twinning networks through the European Union from Ukraine. And indeed, of course, closest neighbors will be probably the first ones naturally to come in. My second point in this regard, Hannah, just to finish, in our report on Eastern Partnership, we made a proposal to establish European, well, it's called Eastern Partnership University in Ukraine. With the main purpose, again, to raise new experts, new generation of experts, as well as to increase administrative capacity. I'm coming to this issue and will be coming to this issue because it's a central part. I mean, if we have willing, able, and dedicated people, nothing will protect us, I mean, from achieving our highest goal, seeing Ukraine one day in the European Union. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Petros. I fully agree with you that even within Eastern Partnership, we could think about exchange of expertise. And it's good that Maya Sandu won presidential election in Moldova. So now Ukraine could be a leader uniting Moldova, Georgia after parliamentary election. So thanks for mentioning this. But now I go to Lviv, or not Lviv, to Poltava. Poltava to Yulia Horochanina. She represents the local city council, and as Olga Stefanishina, the Vice Prime Minister of Ukraine, mentioned that the next Office of European Integration will be opened in Poltava city as well. So, Yulia, very briefly, because we are lacking of time, about key priorities, expectations, 2 minutes, and then we move to Lviv, Lugansk, and Andrius Kubilius will make final summary and proposals for next forums and practical steps. Please, Yulia.
Доброго дня всім, постараюся максимально швидко. Дякую за
запрошення, можливість бути на цій конференції.
Справді гарна новина для нашого міста, що саме Полтаву обрано для відкриття регіонального офісу з євроінтеграції, тому що це дозволить налагодити комунікацію, пришвидшити скоріше комунікацію і налагодити співпрацю в рамках європейської співпраці. І зараз Полтава насправді має позитивний досвід співпраці з німецьким проектом GIZ по розробці концепції інтегрованого розвитку міста, плану сталої мобільності, і тепер виклик для нових депутатів, які обрані на цих виборах, реалізувати напрацьовані спільні такі стратегічні документи. І тут дійсно буде важливий і досвід, і технічна підтримка, і фінансова, і європейських партнерів для того, щоб забезпечити
projects, and now we need partners support, even financial support to implement that plans. I hope that after recent elections, Ukraine had received a lot of integration-oriented local members of parliament. Poltava has profited in its urban budget, but municipal budget, but we are very much concerned about the new rules as to subventions and new rule of formation of the local budgets. And keeping that in mind, we are happy to build up our cooperation. As of now, one of our top priorities is to develop self-organization among Poltava residents and energy efficiency at the municipal level. We pay a lot of attention to this two aspects now. We pay much attention to the energy house project, and we are thinking how to make this huge project well-tailored to our local conditions. Of course, there are a lot of topics which I would like to discuss, but nevertheless, we don't have time, and I invite you to come to us and to get more familiar with our problems. Yulia, you have heard members of European Parliament and have seen how ready they are to provide expertise and assistance. Now I give the floor to you, Uliana Pak from Lviv. I also graduated from the Lviv University. I'm great sympathetic of that city. Yulia, please turn on your sound. Hello, everybody. Thank you for this opportunity to participate in discussion. We have been feeling that improvements which were given to us due to decentralization reform, and we try to make a good use of all the opportunities. We try to raise trust to the local authorities. We had developed new tools for the community impact on decision making. We have established good cooperation with the European cities. Last year, we visited waste treatment plants and waste processing plants in Poland, because currently we're implementing the waste treatment and waste sorting plant near Lviv. Of course, coronavirus made a detrimental effect on small and medium-sized businesses. Lviv enjoyed the status of tourist location, and many SMEs worked in hospitality area. Currently, to survive, they fire a lot of people and close a lot of jobs. We have to do something about that, and we have to find the ways to create new jobs. We are in 50 kilometers from Poland, we might be attractive in terms of new manufacturing enterprises. In Lviv, we have good educational institutions, and we would like to develop this academic potential. And to apply better educational technologies. We have a lot of plans. We cooperate with European banks. We managed to promote the Lviv central part as a UNESCO monument, and I fully support Yulia in terms of the budget, in terms of those contributions which we pay to the national budget, especially in conditions of pandemic, and the central government should base its budgetary assumptions on the actual earnings of local communities. That's why I welcome so much creation of the European integration offices throughout Ukraine, and we hope that we will have such center in Lviv someday. I'm pleased to give the floor to Mr. Bill.
Ось яка мотивація, особливо
before doing
на
that, I would ask our guest from
чи є підтримка
Luhansk to
Європейського
describe
Союзу
the
там у
attitude
вас
in
на
Luhansk region
Луганщині
towards European
боротьі з пандемією в ці складні часи? От Вадим Гаєв і Яна Літвінова, але зараз, будь ласка, Андрюс,
the pandemic. But
вам слово.
before giving the floor to Luhansk, I give the floor to Mr. Kubilis. Ганна, дякую. На жаль, мені треба буде приєднатися до іншої.
We'll start really from congratulating, really very interesting event.
Сказати, наскільки цікава подія в нас сьогодні вийшла.
Municipalities. You know, I came to this meeting from another meeting, you know, almost 2 hours before. We had our Foreign Affairs Committee meeting, where we had a conversation with very famous, you know, Russian opposition people like Alexei Navalny, Vladimir Kara-Murza, Vladimir Milov, Ilya Yashin. And this difference, what we were talking, you know, with Alexei Navalny, our good friend, you know, and what we're talking here, really, it's something incredible. It's something incredible, you know, and that you have, you know, full-fledged democracy with all the problems of democracy and things like that. That is big achievement of Ukraine, and unfortunately Russia still is very much behind. We hope that Russia also will follow Ukrainian example and Belarusian example, and that is what we can talk in a very clear way. Now, really, you know, I think that you spoke everything. I have almost nothing to add. All democracy is local. That is what we know from our own experience. I would say really integration, when I'm looking into Lithuanian experience, you know, what EU integration gave us, I would say that the biggest achievements were, first of all, for municipalities, local municipalities, and for agriculture, which is quite an interesting, you know, development. But municipalities really managed to improve their conditions very much. In some cases, you know, they have new squares much more beautiful than we have in Vilnius. Now the problem is how to keep and how to create new jobs in order to have people to enjoy those squares, but that is, you know, next stage. I really would say that, you know, I very much enjoyed what our good friend, you know, Viola von Kramon was speaking about, you know, about Mykolaiv, other municipalities, you know, and I had a chance to visit some of them, on my bicycle tours, including Mykolaiv. I agree absolutely. It's a beautiful city. We have been to Kherson, and we have been to Mariupol, and we have been to Kramatorsk, to all the different. I'm not talking even about Lviv. Next year, this year we were planning to go into Ternopil region. Unfortunately, pandemic stopped our new adventures in Ukraine, but we promise, that next year perhaps we shall come. And listening to Hannah, to Viola, since we are both in this, association committee with Ukrainian, parliament, maybe we can discuss next time we shall have our meeting, to establish some kind of European awards to best municipalities in different regions of Ukraine, which are doing the best, integration attempts, best modernization attempts to integrate themselves to European level, to European style. And the last point, I would put additional argument why Ukraine really needs to get during this decade, membership perspective, clear membership perspective, and candidate status, because that is the reason why in 2029 we shall have possibility to come to Lutsk and to have, second summit of European leaders, to celebrate 600 years anniversary, and also new opportunities, new possibilities for Ukraine as a very important country for whole Europe. Thanks a lot, Hannah. Thanks a lot, and I'm switching to another meeting.
Thank you, Andrius. Thank you for your proactive position, and thanks for uniting different members of European Parliament around making Ukraine truly successful with rule of law and strong institutions, and with decentralization reform as a key reform and successful reform. So I hope one day we will see on bicycle tour many European members of parliament with Ukrainian MPs and local mayors. So, but now let's thank you, Andrius. I know you have to go, but now we are keen to listen to Yana Litvinova. She is the head of Starobilsk city. So, Яна Літвінова, будь ласка, зараз вам слово. Які настрої в Луганській області, які вас очікування від Європейського Союзу? Будь ласка.
The situation in Luhansk region and what are your expectations from the European Union?
Можливо, поки Яна приєднується, пане Вадим Гаєв, як селищний голова Новопсковської громади, можете ви сказати, ви прослухали всі виступи, ваші очікування і від уряду, і від, зокрема, Європейського Союзу. Як виглядає ситуація з пандемією? Яка потрібна вам допомога зараз? Будь ласка, пане Вадиме.
Добрий день всім присутнім. Дякую за можливість виступити на такій поважній платформі. Я представляю Новопсковську селищну раду. Це перша об'єднана територіальна громада в Україні. Ми знаходимося на самому сході України, на півночі Луганської області, і ми працюємо трішки в інших умовах, ніж наші колеги, наші партнери з інших громад всієї України. У нас зараз дуже обмежений, ми не можемо скористатися всіма можливостями, тими, які користуються наші колеги. Наприклад, наші колеги з Львівської області активно розбудовують і використовують саме своє місце знаходження поруч з кордоном. На жаль, ці можливості для нас зараз закриті, так як ми межуємо з країною-агресором, і у нас з усіх пунктів пропуску там прикордонних працює тільки один. Також частина області у нас є під окупацією, і ці території, вони фактично, це були, знаєте, такі промислові території, які наповнювали бюджет як Луганської області, так і всіх тих міст, які залишились там. Тому я вважаю, що для нас і зі сторони уряду, зі сторони міжнародних партнерів все-таки повинна бути трішечка більша увага. І ми не повинні працювати на одних і тих самих правилах, на одних і тих самих умовах, що інші міста України.
than other cities of Ukraine. This is about distribution of money from the state budget, state programs that exist now. I believe that there should be more attention to us. In the short time, we should build a belt of success that would be around the occupied territories near the border with the Russian Federation. This is really needed. And I'm really thankful to the projects that work in Lugansk Oblast. This is ULEAD, GIZ projects, and Program of Development, UNL program. And we were cooperating with them, and we continue our cooperation. There are many small and big projects. The majority of the projects are directed to get some new knowledge, some training, seminars, and many explanations provided for us, advice, consultations. We have opportunities to contact experts of the projects, but I believe that the most important are those projects.
На прикладі нашої громади, коли ми реалізували, збудували новий ЦНАП, Центр надання адміністративних послуг, разом з програмою розвитку Організації Об'єднаних Націй,
together with UNO, we created the Center for Provision of Services, and this was the most large-scale project. People are able to get services of the European level. This is energy efficiency building, and there is reception zone, electronic queue, and all staff was trained properly, and we provide services at a very good level. And such projects, we should have more of them. And residents of the community, they see the support and assess whether the support from our European partners efficient through such projects. Trainings, they are more narrow. They are for officials, small business, for small segments. It is for some small groups of people, and the majority of residents, they are not covered by this.
М'які проекти, вони не чіпають основну кількість населення,
і вони навіть не знають, що таке можливості є.
Тому моя думка все ж залишається, що потрібно вставити акцент на твердих проєктах, знов-таки, зі сторони уряду, зі сторони парламенту, нам потрібні додаткові преференції, це і не тільки фонд регіонального розвитку, я думаю, що ми і так ефективно працюємо. Я вважаю, що потрібно внести зміни до бюджетного кодексу, податок на доходи фізичних осіб для Луганської і Донецької областей під час проведення АТО, ООС, операції Об'єднаних Сил повинен бути обов'язково збільшений, як для місцевих бюджетів, так і для обласного бюджету. Нам потрібен додатковий ресурс для того, щоб ми на час цих бойових дій, на час проведення ООС мали додатковий ресурс, щоб ми швидше розбудовували свої території, відновлювали.
Пане Вадиме, дуже дякуємо вам. Ви фактично знаходитеся на передовій. Ми розуміємо, що російська збройна агресія триває, і ми дякуємо представникам Європарламенту за санкції проти агресора. Це дуже важливо, що є санкції Європейського Союзу. Ми також дуже сподіваємося, що з новою адміністрацією Сполучених Штатів Америки ми будемо бачити трансатлантичну консолідовану позицію і підтримці реформ в Україні. Ну і ще раз хочеться привітати тих,
Ukraine, and we would like to greet once again those who won local elections. And every finish is the new start. You open a new page by winning elections, this opportunity to serve fairly the citizens of Ukraine, and there should be high standards, and we should also take into account the experience of the European Union, but we believe that Ukraine also may provide of good things to the European Union, and this investment projects, partnership, twinning between the cities and people who provided their energy and the wish to change things. We will strengthen the relationship of Ukraine and the European Union through the bodies of local self-governance, and there will be a big struggle for the budget 2020-2021, and then the stage, transitional stage, reform of decentralization, healthcare reform, education sector reform. It is very important that decentralization was provided with the financial help from the state, and this money should be used without corruption, and 5% medical guarantees in times of pandemic and for support of people. And we see the sad statistics now, 16,000 people, this is the record. In this pandemic, and local communities, they should have proper communication with national parliament, government and the president. Our organization, ANS, supported by European Endowment for Democracy, we held a marathon with the candidates in 10 oblasts. We supported those people who were campaigning, and now they won, and we will continue to hold such forums and provide education and provide presentations of the budget. And we hope that in 100 days we will be able to hold a marathon with mayors, with the heads of territorial communities, in order that you will be able to show your success that you achieved in 100 days. Because success, I see that Mikhail wants to add something.
Mikhail, would you like to add something at the end of our conversation? Or
no, I was just waving elsewhere, so that didn't concern you, but thank you very much. It was very insightful. I welcome this kind of meetings because it's really good to get to know people as well from the local levels, the successful mayors and so on. Now it's very motivating. Thank you.
Thank you, Mikhail. We have more than 100 very successful, professional, experienced local deputies, but we couldn't include all of them because we could talk for 1 week, but we just choose best of the best. So, дуже дякую всім за сьогоднішню розмову. До наступних зустрічей. Продовжуємо боротися за бюджет 2021. Верховна Рада продовжує імплементацію угоди про асоціацію. В Полтаві відкривають офіс з євроінтеграції, а у Львові будують за європейськими технологіями сміттєпереробний завод. І питання waste management, твердих побутових відходів нарешті буде вирішено. Тому, друзі, тут ще я бачу, пані Алевтина нам написала. Пані Алевтина – це теж депутат, якраз українка, це тут Обухівський район під Києвом. Тому в нас сьогодні було теж багато, я сподіваюся, переглядів, онлайн-трансляція і англійською, українською мовою. Отож, друзі, давайте цю пасіонарність перемоги на виборах перетворимо в реальні зміни на місцях. Отож, дякуємо депутатам Європейського парламенту, дякуємо всім, хто сьогодні з нами був. Будемо далі будувати коаліцію в Європарламенті,
viewers, and we will build coalition in the parliament, and we will reinforce the cooperation. And I hope that today's forum will be a small step to the big event in 2029 in Lutsk. We'll have a meeting. That's why let's think big and act locally. Thank you very much once again. And thank God, thank to Ukraine, and we wish all the best to all our friends of the European Union. Thank you very much. Glory to Ukraine. Glory to Ukraine.